I don't have the words for the pain this image brings. After 86 days of starvation, they are herding my people into cages like livestock for a meal. Concentration camps in broad daylight. The world watches, some cheer, most stay silent, but I hope Jews are feeling safe. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show, everybody. Keaton and Kurt in for Jimmy while he is on the road. So Benjamin Netanyahu had to essentially apologize to his own people for agreeing to allow a modicum of aid into Gaza in order to maintain support from the Western allies, because the optics of hundreds of thousands starving to death was just more than the Western allies could bear, or so we're told. So here he is explaining to his people how this is going to work. Notice they release the Hebrew language versions of these videos for the stuff that they really don't want the Americans to hear, and then it falls to an American outlet like Dropsite in this case to actually translate it. Sometimes he'll speak English, sometimes they'll put it out Hebrew with English subtitles, sometimes they'll just leave it in Hebrew. And that's this case. So Dropsite translated this. So here we go. Since the beginning of the war, we have said that to complete the victory, to defeat Hamas and free all our captives, two intertwined tasks, there is one essential condition. We must not reach a state of hunger, both practically and politically. They simply won't support us, and we won't be able to complete the mission of victory. Therefore, we decided to provide minimal aid during the war, and of course, we advanced in this way. And we discovered, of course, that Hamas is looting some of this aid. Therefore, we stopped the humanitarian aid, and together with our American friends, we decided to implement a different method. The method is distribution points secured by the IDF to prevent Hamas access, allowing American companies to distribute food and medicine aid to the population. It takes time. We are going to set up the first points in a few days and add more later. Unfortunately, to reach a situation where we have an area entirely controlled by the IDF and all the civilian population of Gaza can come there and receive aid while Hamas gets nothing. So that is the plan, according to Bibi Netanyahu. There's some more reporting on this. Sweeping overhaul of Gaza aid raises questions of morality and workability. This was 4 days ago, reported on May 24th. Last year, a group of former U.S. intelligence and defense officials and business executives working in close consultation with Israel prepared a proposal for supplying humanitarian aid to Gaza that would address Israeli government claims that assistance was being diverted by Hamas. In previously unreported internal documents, the group detailed a radically new and ambitious model. It envisioned the creation of an organization called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that would hire armed private contractors to provide logistics and security for a handful of aid distribution hubs to be built in southern Gaza. That's right.
How much you want to bet once the hubs are up and anybody who actually goes to those hubs, the IDF is going to discover that some Hamases are hiding in those people and they're going to have to blow them up.
Well,
you want to put money on it?
Yep. And you could pretty much see the writing on the wall here, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Sonic meets Blackwater, right? Under the arrangement, which would replace existing aid distribution networks coordinated by the United Nations, Palestinian civilians would have to travel to the hubs and submit to identity checks to receive rations from non-governmental organizations, NGOs. Eventually, according to the plan, Palestinians would live in guarded compounds that would each house up to tens of thousands of non-combatants. Okay, so in plain English, they're describing concentration camps.
Right.
That is what they are writing about.
A reservation, let's call it.
Yes, a reservation. Yes. But as early as November, the documents showed the planners anticipated that the foundation could face potentially damaging questions from the public about its opaque origins, qualifications, and moral legitimacy. Those concerns about possible pushback now appear prescient. Oh, do they? With prominent humanitarian agencies and prospective donors balking, some senior officers in the Israeli military questioning the plan, and even some people who participated in the foundation's early planning distancing themselves from the project, citing moral qualms over the possibility that it would enable the forced displacement of Palestinians or misuse biometrics.
I didn't. That's the big one right there. What was that stupid orb they wanted people to give their biometrics to from Sam Altman? I think was putting it out. You get some free crypto, and you get your biometric scan. You know, all those 15-minute cities you heard about. Well, Gaza was a prototype of that, and this is they're going to experiment on them with tech. That's what they're going to do in the camps.
Oh yeah, no, it's really, really terrifying stuff. The GHF's Gaza aid operation is expected to launch this coming week. Whether it succeeds and how it operates holds tremendous implications for the 2 million Palestinians who are sealed in the 140 square mile enclave and nearing the brink of famine, according to UN estimates. So let's see how it worked out. Well, that's about how it worked out. I don't have the words for this, for the pain this image brings me. Sorry. Can we put that back up? Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. I don't have the words for the pain this image brings. After 86 days of starvation, they are herding my people into cages like livestock for a meal. Concentration camps in broad daylight. The world watches, some cheer, most stay silent, but I hope Jews are feeling safe.
Maybe if you'd shut up.
Yeah. Max Blumenthal says this is the aid model apartheid Israel and the Zionist-controlled Trump administration have conceived to subvert the UN system. It requires Gaza residents to march miles across an active war zone, then be confined in a concentration camp as they wait for a meager supply of food. So don't forget, everybody, this is in Rafah, which is in the south. What has been their plan was to clear the north. So what they're doing is they're making everybody walk 10, 12 miles south of where they are so they can empty out the north. Oh, you want food? You're going to have to come south to get it. Why? So we could lock you in the south and claim the north for our own. So this is the aid operation. That's what I mean. This is just like diabolical evil. It's just like bone deep evil. It does not get more evil than this.
The Trail of Morals. It's like a Trail of Tears, but from the most moral army in the world.
Yes, the most moral Trail of Tears. Exactly. And just as Kurt predicted, U.S. aid workers flee the scene after they lost control of aid distribution, and Israeli forces open fire at the area in Rafah. Now, this is not my channel. I don't want to cause problems with YouTube, so we're not going to play the volume here. But what you're seeing is people fleeing at the sound of gunfire. So I can't play the gunshots for you here, but that's the visual of what's going on there. And some people were able to get their hands on some of the boxes of food after the chaos. So predictably horrible rollout, shall we say, of the new aid distribution. Israeli troops open fire as aid group loses control of distribution center. Israeli troops have opened fire near thousands of hungry Palestinians as a logistics group chosen by Israel to ship food into Gaza lost control of its distribution center on its second day of operations. An 11-week total siege and a continuing tight Israel blockade mean most people in Gaza are desperately hungry. Hundreds of thousands walked through an Israeli military lines to reach the new distribution center in Rafah on Tuesday. But the newly established Gaza Humanitarian Foundation was not prepared for them, and staff at one point were forced to abandon their posts. At one moment in the late afternoon, the volume of people at the SDS, Secure Distribution Center, not sure why it's not SDC, but whatever, was such that the GHF team fell back to allow a small number of Palestinians in Gaza to take aid safely and dissipate, the foundation said in a statement.
Wait, let me guess. They're getting bad information on numbers from the Israelis.
Well,
and the Israelis want that so that they can open fire.
I mean, this is what Norm Finkelstein said as part of that Piers Morgan interview and debate. He said it would go exactly like this. They're going to hand out a limited amount of aid. They're going to make the Palestinians come to them. They're going to claim that there are combatants in the crowd. They're going to claim there was a riot. And they're going to kill some of the crowd to intimidate the rest to go away. And they're going to hand out the minimum amount of aid that they possibly can, which is what Netanyahu told his people. Going back to the previous segment where we talked about the poll, where most Israelis think it's okay to just starve all of the Palestinians.
Right. So they're mad about this. They're mad that he gave them this much. They're mad about this.
The Israeli government... The Israeli government had to come and smooth this over with their people. They had to basically come and apologize. They had to say, look, we know you guys aren't thrilled with aid going in. But if we don't let any aid in, the Germans aren't going to send us any more weapons. So we just have to let some aid in. But the goal is, of course, to minimize the amount of aid and maximize the terror inflicted on the Palestinians. It played out exactly as Norm said it would. Exactly as he said it would.
Have you ever heard of the evil, and I condemn him, don't worry, Vladimir Putin, ever doing anything like this? Because I don't remember ever, from all the invective again, I don't remember ever hearing anything like this.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. Israeli tank fire and gunfire was heard, and a military helicopter fired flares, the Associated Press reported. At least 3 injured Palestinians were taken from the scene, one of them bleeding from a leg wound. The Israeli military said it fired warning shots near the compound to restore control. It was not immediately clear if there had been any injuries among the people trying to get food. Images shared on social media, which cannot be immediately verified, appeared to show people waiting in queues between wire fences. Since was verified, that's the image that went viral that we showed you a few slides back. These were later partly torn down as people rushed into an open field where boxes were waiting. Some reportedly managed to obtain aid boxes with basic items, including sugar, flour, pasta, and tahini, but most left empty-handed. So let's hear what... Yeah, of course. So let's hear what the Matthew Miller of the Trump State Department has to say. So this is Tammy Bruce. So we all remember, you know, the Fat Sagar videos and the Matthew Miller videos where they would get asked questions by the press. Well, here's the Trump version of that.
The 8,000 food boxes have been distributed so far. Each box feeds 5.5 people for 3.5 days, totaling 462,000 meals. And so those are the kinds of numbers, I think, as we're looking at what's important in moving that kind of aid through the area.
Right, but there was apparently some incidents today involving potentially shots being, or at least warning shots being fired, and hundreds.
Well, yes, Hamas still has weapons. Hamas is in a situation here where all of this could have stopped, of course. If
Hamas was not there. There were no Hamas lining up for food. There were no shots fired by any Palestinian at all. At all. According to even the Israeli government is not claiming that there were armed Palestinians who fired on the food envoy. Nobody's claiming that except your spokesperson for the Department of State.
They had released the hostages and put down their weapons, but they refused to do so. They've also rejected ceasefires. So that's without confirming what might be gossip or single reports. The fact of the matter is...
not gossip or single reports. There's multiple reports plus video.
Hamas has been opposed to this dynamic. They have attempted to stop the aid movement through Gaza to these distribution centers. They have failed, but they certainly tried. The bottom line is, the real story here is that the aid is moving through, and in that kind of an environment, it's not surprising that there might be a few issues involved, but the good news is that those seeking to get aid to the people of Gaza, which is not Hamas, have succeeded.
And last one, really...
It has not succeeded. It has not succeeded. All the reports saying almost everybody left empty-handed after walking miles and miles and miles through an active war zone at tremendous personal risk to themselves, many of whom probably not going to be let back to the north, because that's the point of doing this, is to corral them all into the south. And she says, yeah, it was a success. See, this is what Bibi wanted. This is what he said. He said to his people, we have to do this so that the Americans will get off our ass, so the Germans will get off our ass. And if we make a show that we're trying to feed them, then we won't have any more problems.
Briefly,
yeah, can't pay for their own murders. We got to do it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But my understanding is that the administration is not particularly happy with the position that the UN and its agencies have taken with regard to these shipments. Is that correct?
Well, it is. From the very beginning, we had I'd mentioned and we had heard about the resistance by certain NGOs and the UN. It is unfortunate because the issue here is getting aid to Gazans. And then suddenly it moves into complaints about style or the nature of who's doing it, or elements of administration and being opposed to getting food and aid, as we've demonstrated here, is happening and will continue to happen because someone might feel left out, is, I think, the height of hypocrisy.
Because someone might feel left out. meaning the UN agencies who can distribute more aid in, it's almost insulting to even say this, in a more humane fashion. Those are questions of style, according to her. I mean, it's you have to look at this. This is a severe thing to say. I don't know how you can look at this and not just feel tremendous shame for this entire country. Wholesale.
Oh, I know how. By not looking at it.
Yeah.
By never looking at it and only looking at. I mean, Jimmy don't like me trashing, but on Twitter, I was like, with Tim Pool, I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" Like him talking to that idiot from Adam Ruins Everything and losing a debate on America's interests in Israel. Which, how do you lose to that idiot? Well, by being totally wrong. And that's a deliberate choice to pretend you're in some kind of journalism and avoid this. And I watch a bunch of people do it, and a bunch of people like, I don't even want to. It's like the Rick and Morty thing where Rick gets drunk and talks about Israel, and they're like, hey, I don't have a dog in this fight. Right. If you think you don't have a dog in this fight, do you think your money going to pay for this is not a dog in this fight? Is everybody stupid? They don't want to know. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
I'll do you one better than that. Do you think the police state that they are building to enforce the narrative around this is not going to be weaponized against you one day? It's not just your money. It's they are attacking basic constitutional rights on behalf of this foreign country. And that is not going to stop at this issue. Part of this big, beautiful bill is $45 billion for immigrant prisons. You think those prisons are meant to hold just immigrants? Really?
Well,
really?
They don't have to tell you why they grabbed you or justify it after Obama signed away habeas corpus.
Exactly.
I didn't hear Trump restore habeas corpus. We're going to keep all that great terrorist act stuff.
Yeah.
From that, I guess the only non-false flag in history, 9/11.
Yeah.
We're going to keep all that. It's not going to come up. Maybe we shouldn't have that. That don't even come up.
No, you can't hide from this. Our friend Misty did an interview recently with a Guantanamo activist named Andy Worthington, and he said something pretty profound. Because he was speaking to what you're talking about, Kurt, whereas a lot of people just want to bury their head in the sand. He says, the forces of evil are on the march now, and you simply do not have the option to pretend it does not exist. Like that, you're not going to be able to do that for much longer because it's getting very, very oppressive very quickly. And this is the center of it right here.
A lot of people, and good on Jimmy for pointing it out, because I go on the road all the time. I don't care about slogans like MAGA and stuff, but the people that were part of that, when I talk to them, and I know when Jimmy talks to them, they're not on board for this.
Right.
They're pretty horrified by it. They don't understand why none of the things are happening. Right. I think everybody should boycott the whole country just for the Epstein thing alone. Just for the fact that all the day one transparency never happened, and the people that did that horrific thing are still in power, and there's no purges.
Right.
No one's purging them. That's strange. China, the commie country, one thing they crack down on real hard, which I'm not against at all, is corruption. They go after a corrupt politician. You will get a worse punishment than a guy that steals your purse. He'll get less out of a punishment than somebody who does that. They'll get the shot in the back of the head. Okay. Because it affects, the whole state's legitimacy. And if you check out Chinese, they don't want the government overthrown. They get mad at local government that's corrupt, and they want them, executed Chinese style. We don't have anybody advocating for us to that level here in America with that level of supposed patriotism. There's just no one here. They're all bought out. We're like a shell company.
Come see us live in Los Angeles, Buffalo, Toledo, Montreal, Ottawa, Glasgow, Manchester, Belfast, Dublin, London, Liverpool, Birmingham. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.